All right, Marcus Van Zandt here. We're talking to my agent, Janelle Miller, regarding why the hell she's so busy in a market when most people aren't busy. So, Janelle, appreciate you joining this Zoom. We're going to be sharing this with our team as well as other agents for opportunity on where we're at with the market. But the reason we're going to have this conversation is Janelle's doing something that's very unusual for most agents right now, and this being the end of, and we're in November of 2023 right now, and most people are talking about how bad the market is with the interest rates and everything else, and they're slow and blah 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 blah. So I believe that we can outwork anything if we're willing to do that. And we had a pending report come through the other day, and I was out meetings and things like that and wasn't really paying attention to it. And all of a sudden I looked at the pending report and I was shocked because a lot of agents are not having the success that Janelle is having. And let's talk about that a little bit, Janelle. So we're going to get into, I'm going to talk about the numbers. We're going to get into what you're doing and stuff like that. And then a quick intro about how long you've been doing this. Well, let's do that first. So you've been licensed. So nobody thinks that you've been licensed for 50 years and knowing what you're doing, because obviously you're not 50 years old. So you've been licensed for how long
now? Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So
February will be licensed 2 years, but I didn't technically start until May.
Right. And so you were not in real estate prior. I mean, you had a massive sales background.
Yes.
You did? Where'd you come from?
Well, I came from dentistry, which is a totally different type of sales.
So basically you hear things that people say without them actually saying the words. You listen to their actions, not their words, because you're good at hearing mumbling. So we're perfect on this video. Yes. And you understand everything I'm saying. So okay, so you're not a massively experienced agent. And so, but you're super smart and willing to work hard.
I am. I'm willing. Smart.
Now you're single, you have no outside concerns whatsoever, right? I mean, the names on the wall, that means nothing to you, correct? I mean, what, mama three?
Mama three, yes.
Wife, right, husband, great family, and all that kind of stuff. So balancing life is a major hurdle.
Yes. Right. I'm a busy woman.
So anybody that's single and have all the time in the world, I got no excuses for, because I'm looking at, and actually I've let go of a couple agents who gave me excuses like that, because I've looked at Janelle and went, nah, when she's busy, when you're busy like that and you're willing to do the work, it really just doesn't make any sense when somebody else isn't. So, well, let's get to the numbers, because that's what everybody wants to know. So the reality is we're looking at, and you just kind of ran by it for me right now, but we are looking at 5 pending over almost 1.9, almost $2 million, right? And so that's your 5 pending for now. We're going to get into who they are and where they're at. You've got 3 listings. One's active, 2 you're in the photo process of, plus another listing appointment this week. And you've written 2 offers and you're waiting on responses. Super slow. I wish you had more time. So the last time we talked at one of our meetings, you had 3 pending and 2 fell apart and you were pissed off. What happened since then?
I doubled down and was determined to make sure that I got them back and then some.
So it didn't defeat you. You got kind of angry about it and made it.
Yeah. There was a moment when I got defeated, but only a moment. And then I got pissed and I was like, oh no.
Well, so let's talk about that though. Where are these? Let's see, that's 2 offers written, 5 pending, that's 7. You've got 3 active listings, that's 10, plus a listing appointment, that's 11. Where do these 11 contracts come from, and how long have you been talking to these folks?
Let's see. For my pending, I had 4 came from Flex and then a PPC. One of the flexes was over 3 years old. So actively looking for 3 years, but finally made that decision. The other 7 months, a year, and then the other one was pretty quick. I would say about 3 or 4 months.
Okay. So a little bit of all over the place. You've had a sphere of influence, you've had some other stuff, but the reality is, and you'd mentioned Flex, we're Zillow Flex, and our team knows what Zillow Flex is, but for those who don't know what Zillow Flex is, it's an opportunity we got back in January of 21 in which we are not MBP, which is market-based price agents. We don't pay for leads, but we pay a referral fee on the back end, and we get a lot of leads. And we work really well with Zillow and their accountability and stuff. We've learned a lot from that. I mean, I think you would say is what the work looks like, and how to convert things. And we really doubled down on that. But the key, I believe, and one of the things that Janelle and I talked about, it was December of last year, right? I mean, it was towards the end of your first year. Was the balance you were finding hard to make with family and then receiving phone calls constantly. And we got a lot of phone calls from our lead sources, from our PPC and all that kind of stuff. But taking those phone calls when you're trying to balance family and business. And so you double down on, can you kind of tell me a little bit about what you learned in a program that we did with a real estate coach, Bill Pipes, if anybody's familiar with that, with a Monday Mayhem. We did a Monday Mayhem at the end of 22, right? That was kind of the end of 22. We did it for 4 weeks in a row. What did you figure out during Monday Mayhem?
Well, I called constantly. We had a big group of people that we were calling, hitting them multiple times a day. I continued throughout several more days rather than just the Mondays. So I kept those people in my pipeline, kept trying to get a hold of them, nurture them. Then what I had to do was, because things got crazy, I had to kind of step back from taking more leads on and pay attention to the ones that I had in my database, because I needed to convert those. Then nurturing them for the last year or last few months. I mean, some of them turned very quickly. Some of them I'm still nurturing now. But really stepping back and loving on those people and converting them into, pending and, and sold was kind of what I did. So, and it worked out because.
So explain nurture to everyone, what, a lot of folks, we were from, I would say end of COVID 20 to end of 22, we're probably order taking. I mean, we were really doing real estate. We were talking about what nurture meant. And how to do that. But how did you identify, basically what somebody you were going to nurture and what that meant to you?
Well, I guess with my background being in dentistry and working in a surgical practice, nobody likes going to the dentist. Everybody is nervous. I'm
avoiding it right now, if I can tell you the truth.
So, in my dentistry days, I built relationships. I earned trust by showing my patients how much I cared and not necessarily overwhelming them with, the knowledge behind why, but, getting to know them on a personal level. And that's kind of what I've carried over into real estate, is rather than pushing the business down their throat and really getting to the market and the numbers, it's learning who they are, where they're coming from, what their family life looks like, so that I know what kind of house and, neighborhood to look for them. And that's been really, really great, because not everybody wants to know numbers. Not everybody wants to know the market trend. They are more interested in the house, the neighborhood, what amenities are in certain areas. So it's really listening to, your people and not overwhelming them. So kind of shutting up and listening to them talk rather than you talk and take on
the whole 2 ears, 1 mouth thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And some people want to know, the numbers, but some people don't.
It's an emotional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part, right.
Absolutely. And, if the husband wants to talk numbers and the wife just wants to talk neighborhood, then don't talk numbers to the wife. Like, just give them the answers that they're asking, or, the answers to the questions they're asking. Don't give them more, because more sometimes just overwhelms people.
Same with my kids. We found that too in our own database.
With my kids, they ask me a question, I'll answer the question, and I'm not going to give them more than what they ask, because
don't use that against you, your kids.
Yeah. So, and certain people have ways that they want to communicate, and, and hitting them from all avenues, calling, texting, emailing, a combination of everything really seems to work, because not everybody can answer the phone during the day if they're at work, but they pop up an email on their screen and they can answer that, or, kind of just a little bit of everything.
So these 11, which is right now 11, and you were telling me you got some more opportunity coming and whatever it is, but let's just talk about these 11, because these 11 people that we have mentioned, How many people are you having to receive? How many leads are you talking to? How many, what's in your database? What are you nurturing?
I've got, I guess my database is about 130-ish people right now. Some of those are past clients, some of them are personal spheres. But nurturing, I would say probably, at least 60 without pulling it up in the thing
You
directly.
said
But
60?
I would say, yeah, about,
Okay.
60, 80, somewhere in there.
Now, what about, I want to get into two things. One, we're going to talk about the looky loos because I know that was a big thing for you earlier, identifying the looky loos. Let's talk about that really quickly because I know that you went out shopping with a lot of people who you had to learn early on that like who were true clients and who just enjoyed the process. And because again, we only get paid at the end, right? So we got to be very diligent about our time. And my instructions to you were, what is it worth separating time from your family, for these folks, because it's got to provide something back to your family. And we want to help as many people as we can. So it's not in our nature to say no, but again, at the same time, we've got to have a result. Otherwise we, go broke and don't do that. And we're not going to be perfect at it, right? And we never get that. But have you tried to, like, it seems like you've gotten a lot better with that as far as knowing where to put your time at and with whom.
Yeah, it's really just asking the right questions. So, I mean, I was working with a girl, she was very indecisive, didn't really know what she wanted because she was nervous and she was, afraid to jump on a house that she saw today because there might be something that hit the market tomorrow that she might like better. So really just getting them to understand that if you find what you want, it's never going to fit or check all the boxes. You're going to have to give up something. It's just what are you willing to, if it's the location.
I think the numbers are over 80% of people. I don't want to call it subtle, but they do. They can't. Everything's in their dreams isn't there, but then sometimes they don't realize what's in their dreams until they see it.
Yes. Yeah.
Do that. So
and then what they thought was important no longer becomes important because other things take precedence. So.
Well, with that though comes like her fear. I believe, I've always said sales is there. We can't force people to do things they don't want to do, right? That's not what we're here for. But we're here to make people help them make a hard decision that they would like to make, right? That's sales. You help them make a hard decision. And it obviously sounded like she was a hard decision. Can't force somebody into that, right? I mean, she was one of your deals that fell apart. So how did you get her back in and locked in?
I basically just listened to the information she was telling me, and then I kind of put it back on her. Like, okay, you didn't like we came out of this contract because of the location, so we're only going to look at homes in this location. So if she sent me something else in a different location, I'm like, no, you didn't. That was the only thing from the last two deals that you didn't like, that we came out of. That it was the location. So we need to just look in, a specific area. And
So it got her excited about that one thing.
Yeah. And I mean, that she was all of a sudden, like she realized, and I said, that's not the area you wanted. And she's like, you're right. You're right. So it's really just kind of like refocusing people, bringing people back into, what was most important for them and realize, making them realize that, hey, you told me this and now you're wanting to go see this, but it's not where you want to be. So
yeah, I'm not as you know, I'm not a huge script kind of person. I believe it's something that has to come from the heart versus something we're reading. But we've really talked about setting appointments, but really the number one thing is motivation, right? I mean, getting to understand what somebody's motivation is and why they're needing to do the thing they're needing to do. The looky loos are wanting. The real people are going to need to do something because they have a desire, a dream, something that's bigger than the thing they're in right now. And so that motivation and understanding that, and she just really wanted to be, her number one was a location and what she was excited about. That's good. So the next thing I want to ask you is, you talked about the lead numbers. I get a lot of agents as, they have failure, right? They are getting those numbers, but they're not converting. And again, that's where our coaching comes from and all that kind of stuff. But is more better? Is more leads, more? Is that better?
Yeah. I mean,
why? You would think it would be better.
But you can't, if you're actively talking to these people and communicating, if you have too many people, you lose track of some. And the ones that you lose track of will be the ones that would have been, a sale, and some of the ones that you pursue too much or that you're in constant communication may not turn for a while. So I think, sometimes less is more because then you can really lean in and, pour into those people and not forget about them and build
Go deep.
relationships. Yeah. Yeah. And build a relationship, get to know them, let them get to know you a little bit.
So you mentioned something about communicating with people, and so what I see when we look at a database, in as you know, with the leads and stuff like that, in my brain, it's coaching. I can't coach effort, right? From the agent standpoint, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. But once you start doing it, then I can coach to success, because then we can figure out where the spots are. But looking at those situations, you said something about communicating with people. And I see a lot of people put things in a nurture bucket where it's one-sided, where you're the one calling them. Like, at what point do you see that they start matching your level? Like, they'll start calling you and texting you back. Have you noticed that there's a switch that gets switched, or is that what you're looking for in that kind of a thing?
I mean, some people, you'll call a ton and they won't answer. So then I try a different avenue. Time isn't always a thing. If they see, your phone number coming up, they don't know who it is or whatever, they might not answer. Even if they see the same number coming up every day for the next 8 days, sometimes they're just not going to answer.
Because today we just don't answer numbers we don't understand, right?
Yeah. So I just reach out on a different level. I'll send them an email, and then in my email, I'll say, hey, look, I texted you my contact information. Contact me back however is most convenient for you. They can email me back. I've been getting some of the people that won't answer my phone calls. I'll send them an email, and I'm getting pretty good responses from those emails. And then once they reach back out to me, with questions or, whatever their scenario is, then I respond, that way. And I'll say, hey, I've got my phone number, or I'll give them a call and ask them more questions that way. Some people will still tell me that they really prefer to, communicate through email, and that's fine, because on their screen it pops up during the day, when they're at work, so they can, constantly know that we're in communication. But I think it's just being, motivated. Just don't give up. Keep
well, a lot of agents are scared of the phone. So can you say that you have any ability to convert by only emailing people?
No. I mean, you have to talk to them eventually. And if they don't want to talk to you, then, that's
so the best emails, based on what I just heard you, though, is, and we haven't really talked about this before, but the best emails you have are basically just following up and saying, I've already called and already left you a message and already sent you a text. Like, you're just following up and letting them know there's a real person on the backside of this. Is that that the biggest response you get?
Mm-hmm. Because then they can see, they see my signature at the bottom. They see a picture to put with, the voicemail that I've left them. And, they have the ability to choose how they communicate back. They can either text me back, they can call me, or they can email me. And then, I had people where we've emailed back and forth several times, and then eventually they'll give me a call. Or, I'll call them like, hey, I'm going to call you tomorrow because I've got a lot to go over. Can I call you, later this afternoon or after work? Because I think it would be easier to communicate over the phone. And so then they're very receptive to that, because we've already established a relationship, through the emails and through the communication that way.
Well, and we're going to give a tip here in a minute about the number one thing. But what I want to, before I ask you that, is time frame. Do you put a limit, like how long? You mentioned one of your things was a 3-year-old flex lead. Do you put a limit on how long you reach out, or what are you doing to see that they're still engaged, that you're going to continue to reach out?
I don't give up. I kind of like the older the lead, sometimes the better, because they've watched the market and they haven't made a move. So, they know kind of what's going on with pricing, and, their motivation may have changed. Life changes, year to year. So I definitely don't give up. As far as nurturing, it really just depends on, the person, because if they're a year out from buying, I'm not going to give up on them. I'm gonna, if I see a nice house that kind of checks the boxes that they're looking for, I'll shoot them a text and say, with a link that says, hey, just saw this house or was here. I send a little video sometimes, just checking in, saying hi.
Whoa. So they said they're not waiting for a year. You don't wait for the year to call them back. Come on, what? So I know that was a huge mistake that we all used to do. And the reality is what we also used to do is say, and a lot of people still coach this, is cut the time in half. But the reality is you're not creating a relationship with somebody or trust with them. You know, if they say I'm out a year and you wait 6 months to call them, they don't, who the hell are you? Right. And so you've got to give them the searches and have the, get them off of the portals and do all the things in the meantime, texting, email. Hey, I saw you're looking at this, but did you see this? Even though
Right.
you know they're not ready because people
Yeah.
change their minds, right? I mean,
Yeah.
time speeds up for some folks. They're like, I thought it was a year out, but X, Y, and Z happened. And
Right.
you just want to be ready, for them. So let's give the number one tip that you figured out. What is the best text you can possibly give somebody
This text.
in a text?
Um,
Hint, video.
Video has definitely gotten.
I set you up on that one, but
Yeah, I was thinking. No, I think the video texts are huge because it is personalized. It's not a generic, text message. And people can see that you're a real person behind the video, and they can put a face, and an area, whatever, to your phone call, your phone number. So yeah, it's gotten me a lot more responses that way. And I can see that they need it. So if they're ignoring my phone call, I can at least see that.
well, with a video text, they have no ability other than to see it, right? And they're going to go, who did this? And nobody's really doing that. And I found that, and I mean, and for anybody watching this really quickly, it doesn't matter if you look like her or you look like me. Shit works. I don't care what you're saying, right? It doesn't matter because people are just putting a name with a face, and regardless of, we want to use our 15-year-old portraits and shit like that. But I mean, our brand is our brand, and when you show up, people got to recognize you. And the brand is your face, your name, your voice, your personality. All that is your brand as a company. And you say, I want to build a business. You are the business, and it is your brand. So you might as well get it out there. And you're like, I don't like video. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. Sorry about your luck. You look and sound like that in life too. So deal with that shit. But just saying, hey, this is me, right? I mean, it's not anything difficult.
No. And I stopped, I was trying to record the video 15 times to make sure it was perfect. And I stopped. Someone gave me advice to stop doing that just to make it real. And people appreciate that. And I've gotten videos back. So
have you? That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's cool. Because again, we shy away from doing the hard stuff sometimes. And I think for us, there's so many people, and we all know this. There's so many people that will not public speak, right? I mean, it's so scary to get in front of stages. There's so many people that don't want to do video, and quite frankly, you're going to have to get your brand out there right now and do those kind of things. There's so many people that don't like the phone. I'm like, well, then some of this stuff you're just going to have to either get over and fight through the hard stuff, or you might as well just go out of the business, because there's just we run out of friends and family, right? You've got a big sphere. You're from this area. You're from Bradenton. So you've got a big sphere, but I mean, are all your friends buying and selling locally? I mean, especially right now when they all have 2% and 3% interest rates, there's not a local person doing crap right now. So, unless they're downscaling from, say, going to the island, going to something much smaller, but then again, that's going to be limited on who that is. And so we've got to go out there and push the brand out there. 1.8 million deals, 5 pending. That's more than I would say. I was actually looking at numbers the other day. I would say that's more than 60% of the agents out there selling, and you've got it pending in a full year. Like, I'd seen some stuff floating around the internet, and I've always known this about the average agent and what they work and stuff like that. But I'm convinced that a full-time agent, somebody actually full-time who's working 40, 50, 60, 80 hours a week, we're in small business, so we're fooling ourselves if you think you're going to do it in 20. So, sorry about your luck, but that's barely part-time in this industry. How many hours would you say you're putting into this, and what's your daily schedule look like? I mean, you're saying you're nurturing and calling, but what does that mean to you? When are you doing that?
Well, I get up typically around 5:30 in the morning. Get up, get ready, get the kids up, ready, dropped off. And then I come home. I'm home usually by 8:15, and I start my day. I look at the market, see what's new. I, reach out. I do my phone calls in the mornings, check my emails, response. If people are looking for specific things and they're active and they want to purchase, now, then I'm actively looking for specific people, things, making sure that their searches are up to date, and, that what they told me is really what they're looking at. because, you can see what people are looking at. And if it's not matching what they told you initially, then I go in and adjust, their searches, send them specific things and, you know, um,
And
set
is
up.
that it? You just call in the morning, or like, because I know that
Yeah,
you're not making 5,000 calls a day. So I know that, right? I mean, you're
right,
somewhere right
right.
now, we've been tracking, and you're somewhere around 30 to 40 dials a day. But I know you've been busy, and you're doing that even with putting all these offers together, even with all these deals, you're still putting that time in. And I know when you have slower days, you make more dials, right? And it averages out. So is it just in the morning? You like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and then you don't do anything else the rest of the day, or what does that look like?
No, I work pretty much all day. Pretty much at least 5, 6 days. I mean, the weekends, because I'm a mom and things are different, every day is different. I get in here in the morning. I try to get in before the kids are up or while they're kind of waking up and, kind of lazy in the morning. Make some phone calls, make sure that things are taken care of. And then no, I go back in the afternoon. You have to check both. I mean, if you just look in the morning, you're going to miss so many things, throughout the rest of your day. And if you're busy, like I've learned, if you don't keep up with continuing to reach out and nurturing the people that you're actively working with, just because you're busy, you'll lose those people too. So you've got to commit to, staying on task and doing the things even when you don't want to,
Right.
because you'll lose out and people will move on, even though you've spoken to them and you've met with them. If you're not there when they need you, then they will move on. So,
So let's do this. Define flexibility for me. A lot of people get in this business and they say, I want to build a business. I want to get into real estate. I want to build this business. And I always struggle to say, define business and define build. But they also say, I want the flexibility, right? Like I'm not punching out 9 to 5. Define that flexibility for me. Like how do you remain? Is there any flexibility? And because you mentioned the weekends with the kids and stuff like that, but then how do you, if clients demanding what they demand, then how do you find flexibility, and does it look normal for you
I mean,
with the family?
you just have to go with the flow. And that's one thing that I wasn't able to do that before when I was in dentistry. It was a 7 a.m. until 5:30 day, and there was no flexibility. So what I've learned is just to go with it. And if you've got a Friday showing at 6 o'clock at night, instead of going out on your typical, date with your husband, then you shift that to a different day. Or, like we try to drop off the kids on Wednesday for church. And then that's when John and I go out on a date as well, during the week rather than the weekend. And it doesn't matter. We're still doing the time. It's just a different day. It just looks
Quality, right? Quality versus quantity.
Yeah. And it's not always like that. So it's, you just go with it. And the kids, they're very flexible. Sometimes I bring them with me.
I was just going to ask you ever taken them on a showing or taken?
I do, and my clients have loved it. Of course, not. You have to pick the right.
Yeah, you got to balance that one, right?
Well,
Yeah.
But when I was working with an older couple, they asked for me to bring the kids the next time because they loved seeing them. I've gotten gifts from my past clients for my kids. Like I'm working with a famous baseball player's parents, and they sent us signed baseballs, in the mail. So it's awesome. It's really just.
Why did I even know about that? That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's killer. I had the same experience with mine when they were younger. That's my oldest, and we did that same thing. I mean, we're family business, and if people don't understand it, and we have families, and if they don't understand that. And I used to do the same thing. My wife and I would, have coffee dates in the morning, or, but you can never, like, I personally never missed one of my kids' games, their basketball games when they were playing or anything like that for work, right? I would miss it because, one kid had one thing on one side of town, the other kid had another something on the other side of town. But that's it's a family decision we all have to make.
Divide and conquer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And usually you miss a great game when you do that. So it's kind of one of those things. But yeah, I mean, we make choices, and I know a lot of people won't make that choice. But again, we're about life balance here in our families and stuff like that. But you know, I'm pretty adamant my kids are not going to be, when I'm on my deathbed, going, Dad, I wish you'd have sold 5 more houses. You know, they're going to, hopefully they say, I appreciate all the time you spent with me. They might say you spent too much damn time with me, but you know, kids being what they are. But so yeah, 24/7 isn't a real thing if we're true professionals, but we have to be flexible, right? We have to be flexible with our clients because typically hopefully they're working or they're making money. And, you know, nights and weekends are a big thing in our business. And you know, like you said, we can go do a showing and then have dinner right after, you know, and that's not typically a big issue as long as you're explaining that. Now, one thing I would advise people not to do is tell people you're not going to meet them because you have a family event, because they're like, you know, what, that's more important than what I got going on. And I don't want to have to tell them the truth and say yes. But the reality is what I would just say is, I'm sorry, I have another appointment. Right. And you just, and it is, I mean, what is the, you know, you and I are both, you know, we understand what it means to put our priorities first, you know, and you know, so other people don't necessarily need to know that it is an appointment and it's one I've made and it's an important one for me. And so that's that. What is your next year going to look? I mean, you said before we got on the call, I was asking about these 11, but you also said your pipeline is like thick and you're about to have another busy month. What do you think that's going to mean to you?
Well, you know, last year around this time, I got really, really busy too. But you know, the people that I've been nurturing all year, they're coming into town. I've got appointments scheduled into December from people that are coming in. I've got appointments scheduled already in January for people that are flying in, that are ready to make the decision. They want to be here. They want to see the homes in person rather than the walkthroughs. So yeah, I mean, I've got over 10 already that are like within the next 2 to 3 months. They want to be under contract.
And that's all you're going to try to get, right? That's it. Just those 10.
No, I gotta keep going.
Gotta feed the beast.
Yeah, you do. Otherwise, you'll have a slow month, and then it doesn't look as good as it did when you originally.
So, what is number? I mean, other than being obviously talented, and smart, and having a lot of common sense and things like that. I mean, and hate to say obviously, because my dad always said if common sense was so common, why don't more people have it? But what would you say the number one thing to ramping up to this level right now and maintaining this? What's the one takeaway? Is there just one?
I mean, for people coming into the business, I would put it in the time. I knew when I switched careers, that my first few years were not gonna be. They weren't gonna be easy. They weren't gonna be, you know, super flexible. They weren't gonna be. You know, I was going to have to put in the time, and I put in the time, and it's definitely paying off. So I would just say, get over yourself and figure it out, because, you know, you've got to make the calls. You've got to put in the time. You've got to make the effort. And I'm having people coming back to me, and, you know, referrals coming in now, and it's only my second year. So it's really, you know, doing the work, showing people that you care, being there when, you know, they need you.
Well, and that really goes back to, and we're going to wrap up, but that goes back to, I believe it's 70% of small businesses fail in the first couple of years, and then I think it's 90% over 10 years. And the reason for that failure, as I've studied business and things like that, is not because they're just bad businesses. It's because they don't have enough revenue coming in at the beginning when they're trying to ramp up. They have too much expense, not enough revenue coming in. And so putting in that work and partnering, you know, with different lead sources and things like that becomes invaluable while you're trying to build up inevitably what it is you're trying to build up. And you just mentioned it, which is a referral-based business, because that is not day one, right? I mean, you got your license and your phone started ringing automatically. That's what everybody thinks. And they watch TV and they're like, oh, I'll show 3 houses and then I'll sell one and it'll be great. And I'm like, that's not the way it works. Not even close. So I appreciate you taking time with this. Like I said, we're shooting this video. One, it's a training video for our group. We provide a lot of leads. We try to help with that first few years, and providing systems and leads and all this coaching and things like that. But I want to provide this because right now we're actually having to re-educate our agents because of the last couple of years have just been order taking, and Janelle got a jump on us because of the family dynamic. She got a jump on a lot of people a year ago to say, listen, let me really kind of focus and start learning and crushing this nurture prospecting issue. versus just order taking. And a lot of old school agents understand that, but there's a lot of thousands and thousands of agents who got into the business in the last couple of years that have no clue what that's going to be like. And going into 2024, I was out in Austin, Texas, and at a Zillow event, talked to a large broker out there, and his statement was survive till 25. And I'm like, that's a great statement, because 2024 is going to look a little bit like a train wreck for a lot of people with the lawsuits and buyer agreements that we do and all that kind of stuff. So putting that work in is going to pay off dividends. And just because everybody else might be suffering, Janelle's not, and because you're putting that work in. And I appreciate that as a broker, that I have an example to look at, because the worst case scenario is that we don't have an example to look at and everybody thinks that's the reality, and nobody's having success. Oh my gosh, then there must be no success. And that's obviously not the case. So we've actually got to be able to do the work. And I think that you were very pointed regarding what it takes to do that, and that structure you have, even in an unstructured world of being a mom. And that's probably your gifting, is the fact that I think moms kick ass, quite frankly. You guys know how to multitask like nobody's business, and so that's killer. But I appreciate your work. I appreciate you taking time with this video and stuff like that. And and if any buyers or sellers are watching this, obviously, again, to understand what we go through with real estate, as her shirt says, she's your homegirl. So give us a call and things like that. But thank you, Janelle, for taking time with me on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.